Hi, my name is Haynes. I'm here in my studio to show you the SmartAV Tango console. In this video we'll be looking at the extension bay. In our previous video we looked at some of the basic operations, and in many cases people make the assumption that that's as far as it goes with the extension bay, that it's simply an extension of the physical faders that you have on the main console. But as it turns out, there's quite a bit under the hood that actually makes the extension bay a really interesting and compelling editing controller as well. Aside from the obvious contribution of these physical macro buttons, it also has a lot of integration with the main console, being able to move the edit panel over to the second screen to maximize the editing work surface across the entire console. You have the option in the software configuration to either choose for the edit panel to show up on the main screen, which in this case you'll notice that the main screen covers both the active channel area as well as part of the individual encoders that are on the right-hand side of the main console. So because of that, and because I'm right-handed, I like to have both the edit panels and the virtual keyboard on the right-hand side. I use this very often for naming exports, such that whenever I go and I have a particular macro button, they'll activate the export audio mixdown window, and by default it's highlighted in the file name, and I can go in and press test, hit enter, and enter again, and it will actually go and render the file. So the virtual keyboard keeps me from having to keep a hard keyboard here in front of me the entire time. Many people that like to have a keyboard in front of them often want to use the edit commands, and that's what the edit panel is for, as well as the active channel area where you have these commands, as well as, of course, the macro keys, which you can program to varying contexts depending upon what you're doing. We'll get into programming these panels in a later video, but for now I wanted to show generally how they were used and the utility of having the edit panel and the virtual keyboard on the right-hand side, as I have configured here with the extension bay. Notice that with the virtual keyboard you also have all the things that are available to you whenever you had a hardware keyboard in front of you, such as whenever you touch F6 it brings up the loop browser, press F3 it brings up the mixer. So you can even do keyboard shortcuts here, but the purpose of this is not for that. It really is for those kinds of functions, are really for the edit panels to handle. In the keyboard you can actually go through the process of using your mouse to go highlight the name of a particular output track. In this particular case I'll go to rack access 1 and I'm just going to type in drums, and I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to type in bass and tab down, and then I'm going to put in synth, and then I'm going to hit enter. And those are my three outputs, and the reason why I did that is so that I don't see rack access 1, rack access 2, rack access 3 when I actually go and select those individual tracks. I now have drums, bass, and synth named for those three tracks that actually show me exactly what's on those channels. So with my template I have it set up as rack access 1, 2, 3 all the way through 8. But for my purposes for this particular project, because I know what I've assigned to those outputs, I've gone ahead and decided to use the virtual keyboard to go through and name those individual outputs so I can dial them in and find them rapidly along the Monarch, as well as see what I'm working on here in the fader bank, as well as seeing things in the project window. So now I'm going to get into showing you how the active channel command area, the macro key areas, as well as the edit panel operate in tandem in the context of how they're programmed. We're not going to get into the specifics of the programming, but I want to show you how everything lines up. So here's the edit panel programming, and as you'll notice, it looks very much like the panels themselves, but you have this additional area here at the bottom. We're going to get into this in a later video, but what I wanted to show you is that we have the edit panel here. We also have edit keys. This is the programming not only for the macro buttons, and you can see the macro buttons as they're listed here. This array handles the wheel assisted commands, and the second array that's over here handles all the generalized functions that I programmed, which is save new version, open, close, zoom to locators, export audio mixdown, quit, and exchange time formats. Those commands are there for every single tab. These that are labeled in gray are the programmable transport buttons that allow you to set up any of a number of functions. For now, the idea is to show that these active panels that are here correspond to this edit key programming. So whenever something shows up in edit mode here and edit mode in the edit panel, that it also affects what shows up across the context of all of the areas. So essentially, as soon as you touch one of these tabs, it changes the context for everything that operates on the board. So getting back to actually working in this particular environment, you'll soon get accustomed to how the active channel command area and the macro keys, as well as the edit panel being on the right-hand side, allows you to operate in a two-handed fashion. So you can actually be changing individual functions and features here with your left hand by touching individual tabs that you program to change the context of the edit panel. And then there are specific things that you can also do over here. And of course, cancel solo, listen, cancel, all the remote commands for mix. Here's my transport tab, which is play from selected start. Here's all the funny things that allow you to do things like play to selected end, and that allows you to go until the selected event completes, and then it stops playback. So you have all of these commands that are much more detailed than you would have directly here that are arrayed across this 10 by 10 box. But while this is happening, you may want to go into the Edit tab and actually change your workspace to Workspace 2. So now I've renamed some tracks. I've worked with the transport panel to listen to my mix, as well as working in the edit context to change my workspace to do some further editing, and I'm ready to render. At that point, I'll then go and either hit save or save new version to actually create a new version of the same project, and I have those remote commands set on the macro keys, and regardless of the context I'm in, regardless of what tab I am, I know that these 8 buttons that are on the right hand side are always programmed to the same functions. So that wraps up our introduction of the Tango extension bay. We've shown how both the edit panel as well as the other virtual work surfaces can operate to increase your workflow, as well as operating seamlessly with the other dedicated areas both in the active channel display and the transport area, to really allow the entire Tango work surface to operate as a world-class editing controller. In the next video, we're going to get into programming some of those controls, both the physical controls, the macro buttons in the transport area, as well as the virtual controls and the soft screens, in order to be able to really customize your host to work to your benefit. As always, thanks for watching.